Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is Two-Way Tonight. I'm Mark Halperin. Our guest tonight, Dan Turrentine. 4 hours on Two-Way today. This is hour 3. Already appeared on the morning meeting, group chat, and he'll be on with Michael Moynihan at 7 Eastern. So just, you're used to a very tireless, smiling Dan Turrentine. You're going to see a broken man, but he'll do his best. And Hogan Gidley's here, former Deputy White House Press Secretary, advisor to the Speaker of the House and the President, and a son of the South. So he'll be referring to you all as all y'all. I'm Mark Halperin, your host, your guide through the day. The president talked up a storm. Not a surprise. He had a bunch of events that were supposed to be closed press, but 2 of them opened, and we could just spend the whole show showing you presidential comments. We won't do that, but we'll show you plenty developments on a variety of matters, including efforts to destroy the radical left. I say that in air quotes. That was a big focus of the White House today. President George Soros, Reid Hoffman, anyone he doesn't like, he's going to try to go after. We'll play some sound from that. You'll be surprised to hear Stephen Miller had similar things to say. And I find that I'm a sucker for a good Stephen Miller soundbite, so we'll probably play that as well. Stuff on the government shutdown, stuff on the Fed, stuff on Comey, a bunch of other stuff, mostly sound for the president. And then the mystery that's gripping all of Washington. I had a lot of meetings today, all interrupted by urgent calls, some from unknown numbers that I answered because you never know who it's going to be. Asking me, why is Secretary Hegseth convening top military brass from all over the planet in Washington, D.C. Soon? And everybody wants to know the answer. And as far as I know, no one knows. But let's find out, because we do have someone here who, if he doesn't know, he'll make it up because he's known to know everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you the Honorable Hogan Gidley of the United States. Hogan, I'm dressed fancier than you for once. You look smashing. That's just an objective fact. Is Hogan muted? Hogan, unmute.
You have on a tie. It doesn't mean you're dressed fancier than me.
I do. It's Dan's son's bar mitzvah today. Hogan, why is Secretary Hegseth, Secretary of War, convening all the generals in Washington?
Isn't it obvious?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know. I brought you in early because I was hoping you'd know and we'd break some news, but you don't know. So, Hogan, you're going back to what Dan and I call the peanut gallery. We'll have Hogan back in a moment. Anyway, I will run through some headlines very briefly. Then Dan and Hogan will be here. You'll be in great hands. We'll take some spin through the news, and then your questions. If you're here on the Two-Way platform, want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand, the yellow hand. You hit the thing that says raise hand, and we'll call on a bunch of you. And if you're watching on X or on YouTube, peace, love, and understanding. No smack in the chat. Enjoy extending the presumption of grace to all. And I think you'll enjoy, Dan. The byplay between Dan and Hogan is said to be like a cross between the West Wing and David Mamet. It's snappy. It's like Bringing Up Baby. It's going to be a lot like Bringing Up Baby. If you like that movie, you'll enjoy the dialogue between them. All right. But first, a word from our sponsors. And because I'm doing the show from an airport terminal, I don't have all the screens up. Sam, who's directing the program, start the clock. I don't know if you can put one on the screen, but tell me when I've talked for a minute, would you? Can you do that? Is that possible? Time me for a minute. Is that possible, Sam? You got a second hand on your watch? Okay. Here we go. I'll count myself down in 3, 2, 1. Cozy Earth, sponsor of the program. You've heard me talk about them before. The bedding, I have the bedding. The shirts, I have the shirts. And of course, say it with me now, I have the pants. Best pants I've ever owned. Not a day goes by when one of you doesn't contact me and say, I bought the pants. Mark, you were right. My spouse says I look fantastic. And people will say to you, literally, they'll say this if you're wearing the Cozy Earth pants, I like the cut of your jib. They'll say that, and you don't hear that very often. So right now, go to cozyearth.com, 40% off the entire site. The bedding comes with a 100-day guarantee. You can return it, no questions asked. And 10-year warranty. Can't beat that. I've got 2 sets. You've heard me say this before. I will snuggle with the set that's not on the bed. I'll wash them after that. Don't worry. Go to cozyearth.com. Use the promo code Two-Way. Get 40% off the entire site. I recommend the Everywhere pant, the bamboo joggers. This is made from bamboo. In the summer, they keep you warm, or keep you cool rather. And in the winter, they keep you warm. It's like the thermos. My father's favorite joke from as a kid. Thermos keeps the hot things hot and the cold things cold. And the boy asks his dad, how does the thermos know? It's like that with these pants. Somehow they know. Keep you cool in the summer, warm in the winter. Sam, is that a minute? That's a minute. Anyway, go to cozyearth.com right now. You won't be sorry. Built for real life, made to keep up with yours. Cozy Earth. Thank you for your service to America and your attention to this matter. Let's bring in, I'm not even going to do the news. I'm just going to bring these guys in because honestly, I might have to board my flight. And I want you to see, Dan, how are having 2 hours of two-way under your belt? How are you feeling?
I mean, the only thing better than 2 hours is 3 or 4 hours. It's great. And I haven't been watching the news as closely since I've been a little busy this afternoon, but I am seeing the clips here.
Okay. Yeah, we'll walk you through it. Hogan, do you remember what Lester Holt, famous for anchoring hours on end without needing a break, do you remember what they called his nickname was?
I know Lester. I'm friendly with Lester. I do not know his nickname.
I think it was Iron Butt. No, is that right? They called Lester Holt Iron Butt? I'm serious. I'm not making it up. Somebody Google it. I think that's what his nickname was.
I have a nice bill over here.
No. Somebody Google right now. It can be anybody. Just put it in the chat. Lester Holt Iron Butt. It's something butt. I think it's iron. Lead butt. I think it's Iron Butt. Anyway, that's what Dan is pulling that off tonight.
I've been called words.
No,
cozy earth pants.
Iron pants. All right. Let's start with this. The president today made it clear that he's going after what he calls the radical left, egged on to some extent by the latest information about the shooter. Number 5, please. Dallas shooter. This is from the Washington Post. Dallas shooter intended to harm ICE agents. Officials say the gunman left notes indicating he acted alone and did not want to hurt detainees, authorities said. The shooting killed one detainee and critically injured 2 others. In the symbolism war of the identity and motivation of killers, nothing could be worse for the left, really, than this. I mean, if the guy says he was trying to kill ICE agents, they're going to be a lot made of that. And one person who's making a lot of that is Donald John Trump. Here's number 1, please, in the Oval Office. The president talking about the so-called radical left.
Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem, not the right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And I'll give you a little clue. The right is a lot tougher than the left. But the right's not doing this. They're not doing it, and they better not get them energized because it won't be good for the left. And I don't want to see that happen either. I'm the president of all the people. But the radical left is causing this. Radical left Democrats are causing this problem, and it gets worse. It gets worse, and it'll be a point where other people won't take it anymore, and that will not be good for the radical left, and we don't want that.
All right, here he is. More on the same topic. Name checking 2 of the biggest donors of the left, George Soros and Reid Hoffman. Number 4, please.
Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I don't know, but Soros is a name that I hear. I hear a lot of different names. I hear names of some pretty rich people that are radical left people. Maybe I hear about a guy named Reid Hoffman. Somebody's a pretty rich guy, I guess, and I hear about him. I don't know. Maybe could be him. Could be a lot of people. We hear the same names. But they're bad, and we're going to find out. And if they are funding these things, they're going to have some problems because they're agitators and they're anarchists. These are anarchists. Really bad.
Maybe not everybody knows. Dan, tell us who Reid Hoffman is. I think everybody knows Soros, but who's Reid Hoffman?
It's a huge tech titan in Silicon Valley, and I actually believe he was with Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia earlier this year, which was one of the more kind of wild things that everyone looked cross-eyed at. But he is a huge donor. He's contributed, I think, over $50 million last election cycle to various progressive causes. So he's well known in political circles.
Hogan, who would the Republican equivalent of Reid Hoffman be?
I would say Foster Friess, the late great Foster Friess, maybe.
Big supporter of Rick Santorum, who you worked for, and a big supporter of Charlie Kirk. Of Charlie's, I think Charlie's a regional donor. And is there an equivalent of Soros in the Republican Party?
Oh, the
No.
Koch brothers at one point were pretty.
How
pretty
about
close.
how about the Adelsons?
That's brothers, plural.
That?
Soros singular.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could point to Adelson, but I just don't think he plays at that level.
okay.
With
Hogan,
his
here's
hands
what,
in as many
Yeah.
things.
yeah. Here's what I want to ask you. And I should say my dad worked for George Soros for many years. Here's what I want to ask you, not doing politics. We hear all the time that there's a connection between these types of donors, particularly Soros, according to the Republicans, and violence. What's the evidence of that?
You're asking me, you said?
Yes. Yeah, I'm certainly asking you. I'm not asking Dan.
That's fine. And I don't know the linkage. I can just tell you that obviously Soros funds a lot of these organizations that are radical. You see people showing up to many of these events, coming in certain, all in the same buses, the same attire, the same weapons, the same, bandanas, the same shield, all the same stuff, the same signage. You don't just make that stuff up. It comes from somewhere. They used to come on planes. They've come in various ways. So someone's funding it because these people aren't, they don't have jobs. So they're coming there out of the some benefactor is doing it. I just don't know who it is, but I can tell you, Stephen, who I was in Stephen Miller's wedding, in his rehearsal dinner. He didn't have anybody but Jewish people in his wedding, but I'm very close to Stephen, one of the funniest people I've ever met, by the way. I know no one on this chat or this show would believe that, but it's 100% true. They're going to get to the bottom of this one way or the other. I think they're going to find out some of these connections. You're going to see the tentacles. These things are not new. I mean, Glenn Beck used to do all of these line drawing on chalkboards and on Fox, like in the early 2000s. Like, this isn't new. I just think actually holding some people accountable to what they're doing and exposing some of it. I think this administration is going to do that.
All right, Hogan, let's, before we play a Stephen Miller soundbite and then go to Dan, what's a huppah and what's a hora? You know, either of those words, huppah or hora?
A huppah is like what you get married under. Yes, like a.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like
Well done.
like an altar.
Yeah, and a hora?
Like
You know what the hora is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. It's a dance. Okay.
A dance.
Here's a hilarious.
Well done.
Here, very good. Here's hilarious friend of Hogan Gidley, Stephen Miller, speaking with the president today on the same issue. Number 2, please.
What is happening outside?
A very historic and significant day. This is the first time in American history that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism. What we have seen, if you look at whether it be going back to the riots that started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, and now the political assassinations, these are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. It is structured, it is sophisticated, it is well-funded, it is well-planned. There is really no parallel like this to anything else in the country right now. There is an entire system of feeder organizations that provide money, resources, weapons, and when they're attacking ICE officers, they're attacking federal buildings, or they're isolating public officials for harassment, doxing, intimidation, and ultimately attempted assassination. It is all carefully planned, executed, and thought through. It is terrorism on our soil. Because of this executive order, Cash and Pam are going to have the tools they need, working with Scott, to take these organizations apart piece by piece. And the central hub of that effort is going to be the Joint Terrorism Task Force, or JTTF, which sits inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But for those at home who are worried about terrorism in this country, they need to understand, because of President Trump's strength, because of his vision, because of his leadership, we are now going to use the entire force of the federal government to uproot these organizations root and branch. And again, that's only possible because of President Trump and his leadership.
All right, not in evidence there, but Hogan's right. Stephen's hilarious. Dan, do you find this language to be measured, ominous, misleading? How do you feel about this Stephen Miller unified theory that there's a through line from protest through murder?
Well, for starters, I've never seen a deputy chief of staff speak that much in front of a president, vice president, FBI director, and everyone else as if he was the principal. I mean, look, I think the goal of this is to intimidate the democratic infrastructure and try to disable it by making people think twice about giving money, tying them up in litigation. I mean, it's people accuse Democrats of trying to do the same thing to Donald Trump with all the different lawsuits that were brought against him to slow him down. Obviously, that did not work. But look, I was a fundraiser for 10 years. I raised money from George Soros. I raised money from Reid Hoffman. I've worked with George Soros's children. I mean, Hogan, you referenced it. He's been around for 20 years. To my knowledge, he is not a funder of domestic terrorism, nor is Reid Hoffman. Perhaps we will see evidence of this. But I think this is just ridiculous. I think the irony is, of all the rhetoric being used right now, the case that Democratic language on ICE is a problem, I think is real. I mean, whether it was what happened in Texas, this shooter, I think we've talked about it on here and other platforms. Democrats have been pretty forward on kind of getting in ICE's way, of disrupting them, of preventing them from doing their job. When Trump goes off and Stephen Miller goes off on this rhetoric of domestic terrorism from the Democratic Party, I think they start to lose people. And I'll be very curious to see what evidence they show.
Hogan, I'd love you to address the 2 points Dan made about his I'll characterize it that he finds this to be irresponsible and unsupported, but also that he thinks it's bad politics. I'd love for you to address both those.
Well, these are obviously claims the administration is making. And as I said, this has long been kind of a question on the right, which is, how are these people getting to these locations? How are these people so well organized? How are they so well, choreographed across the country in many ways? And how do they keep surviving in these Chaz and Chop zones and all of these places? So there's some questions out there that definitely need answering. That's the first part of that. And I think the administration is focused on doing so. And Mark, the second part was?
Dan has said for a couple of days that he thinks this is bad politics, that the country doesn't like this kind of accusation.
Well, as Dan also knows, there's a time and a place for things in politics. And I think at this moment, there's a chance for the Republican Party to not just expose some of the voices on the left that are more radical and discuss the death, the destruction, the danger that comes out of that. But, oftentimes people swing the pendulum too far and then it loses people. So at this point, I don't think we're in any danger of losing people, only because some guy was just shot through the neck who led one of the largest movements on the face of the planet. I mean, foreign leaders came out to offer condolences and issued statements about the death of Charlie Kirk. And so call it what you will. We can talk about the semantics here, but what do you call it when a group of people works to intimidate not a government, but individual citizens through violence? That is a form of terrorism. And I think people understand that at its core.
Let me ask you this.
I think most people see it as a crazy person who did a crazy thing. I just don't think the country looks at it and thinks the Democratic Party is an organized domestic terrorist outfit. And I think this is the type of stuff swing voters look at and they hate. They hate the grievance and they hate when parties get out of control. We paid a huge price for it.
Let me ask you this. This is asked without prejudice. If there's this huge, well-funded, organized left-wing terrorist operation, I'm not minimizing some of the attacks, obviously, but shouldn't they be doing more? Like they're not doing all that much.
Oh, no. They're doing a ton, Mark. I mean, look, I talked to some Republican donors that said they spend anywhere from $1 to $3 billion a year fighting fraudulent IRS claims and attacks from people inside that organization. It sits under Treasury, of course. And the stated goal, and people in these chat rooms with these Soros types, et cetera, tell me that it's by design so that Republican funders spend money on that as opposed to funding candidates or causes, different issues, et cetera. So that's just one way. The violence, what we see out in front with the Antifas and the crazy leftists that I would argue have been given a permission structure to do a lot of these things. It doesn't take the form of just one thing large. It's insidious and it's spread through various NGOs, various organizations at the grassroots level. That the money comes in from the top. Look, there's a lot of suspicion out there. I'm just saying this administration is going to have to bring forth information and facts. I know they will. It's just a matter of time before they do so.
Let's listen a little bit of the acting U.S. Attorney of North Texas reading notes from the alleged anti-ICE shooter. Number 6, please.
FBI agents executed a search warrant at the sniper's residence yesterday, and there found a collection of notes. First, I want to point out that one of these notes or papers, the sniper explicitly states, yes, it was just me. That statement appears to be correct at this point in the investigation. Notably, these loose notes included a game plan of the attack and target areas at the facility. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. He wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel and to maximize property damage at the facility. He hoped to minimize any collateral damage or injury to the detainees and any other innocent people. It seems that he did not intend to kill the detainees or harm them. It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. The tragic irony for his evil plot here is that it was a detainee who was killed and 2 other detainees that were injured when he fired into the Sally Port. He also hoped his actions would give ICE agents real terror of being gunned down, and he did this to induce constant stress in their lives. He hoped his actions
You
would
can cut out of this. You
terrorize
can cut out of this.
ICE employees.
Gentlemen, here's my question. This seems just evil and bad and something everybody should be outraged by, right? And yet, I know what Republicans are going to say about this. Dan, what should Democrats say about this?
I think what they should do is they should say it's outrageous, that violence is unacceptable, and that we respect ICE agents. We can say we disagree vehemently with the immigration policy, that if we're elected, we want to change immigration policy. But I think, and I've said it for months, the party has gotten out of control talking about ICE. This goes back to Los Angeles. And I think, Mark, what's sad is you go into Democratic social media, there are a lot of people who think that this evidence is fake. This is like the whole, Bureau of Labor Statistics stuff was fake. On the left, there is a view that somebody wrote that on the bullets, that it's not real. And you just shake your head like, here we go, right? The conspiracy theories and we don't believe it.
Hogan, I know Democrats electeds are mostly not going to say what Dan said. Why wouldn't they say that?
It's interesting because Dan, smart, right on the money as usual. This is one of those areas where the same thing with, no, seriously, with the same thing with crime. You would be like, look, we have a problem with crime, but maybe we don't like the way Trump is doing this in our cities. We want to work with the president and the administration to make sure our city streets are safe. Why wouldn't they say something that's so commonsensical? I don't know the answer to that, Mark, because I can't get into the mind of a leftist. I can just say their hatred for Donald Trump is pretty clear. And it's like anything he does. I mean, you see online these pregnant women popping Tylenol now just to be angry because he came out and said, look at all these studies from Johns Hopkins and Harvard and Columbia talking about the problems with Tylenol and pregnancy. Even Tylenol themselves said so years ago. So it's like whatever he does, they're against. The sanity has to make a return to politics in general. I would argue more on the left than the right, but it's bad.
It's a litmus test now with the base. You have to be against,
yes.
You can't just be against Trump's immigration policies. You have to be against ICE specifically. This whole thing in the party about masks, we don't ask FBI agents raiding drug lords to take their masks off. But you look at every Democrat running for president, they're either silent or they're completely cheerleading and throwing red meat because they think they have to. And it's insane.
All right, gentlemen, here's what we're going to do.
Also, last I remember, they are the party of masks.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
There are certain kinds of masks I like, certain kinds they don't. Same with the Republicans. Everybody has their favorite mess. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play you a couple of sound bites from the president on different topics, get the two guests' reaction. Then we're going to go to your questions. If you want to get in on the conversation, please raise your hand. I mentioned this mystery that everybody's obsessed with. This why is Pete Hegseth convening the top military officials from around the world to come to Washington. The president was asked about it today. And here's what he said. Number 15, please.
Secretary Hegseth is inviting military leaders from all around the country on Tuesday. Will you also be there?
From all around the country to what?
To Virginia.
He's inviting the generals and admirals to Virginia for a big meeting. They're not sure why.
Well, I know. I love it. I mean, I think it's great. Let him be friendly. Let him be friendly with the generals and admirals from all over the world. Why is there something? No, but is there something wrong with it?
And what is it about? Will you be there personally as well? And what is it about?
Well, I'll be there if they want me, but why is that such a big deal? I mean, the fact that we're getting along with the generals and admirals from all. Remember, I'm the president of peace. It's good to get along. It's good. You act like this is a bad thing. Isn't it nice that people are coming from all over the world to be with us?
It's not particularly unusual that generals who report to the Secretary of War and then to the President of the United States are coming to speak with the Secretary of War. It's actually not unusual at all, and I think it's odd that you guys have made it into such a big story.
Is it a big story? I mean,
I don't think it is, sir.
I would think it's but isn't it a good story? I mean, we're respected from all over the world as a military force. I
think the president seems to think that it's like international military. It's just the U.S. officials. And of course, similar to what Dan pointed out about the Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, talking at length, it's unusual for the Vice President of the United States to jump in at a photo op like that. But I can't think of another Vice President. I don't even think Dick Cheney did that. I'm not criticizing. It's just interesting. Hogan, I know you don't know why the generals and others, admirals and others are coming, but just give us your best guess based on your vast experience. What's the best, most likely explanation?
I mean, I think it could be multiple things, not the least of which would be to have a conversation with the Secretary of War and kind of level set our foreign policy if we need to reset that to some degree.
You know they have WebEx, right?
They do, but you also know there's no excuse for an in-person conversation meeting. It builds culture.
Yeah,
Mark,
Dan,
I would imagine if you could have everybody in a room,
I would do it. I'm a big believer in that. Dan, what's your best guess? What's your best guess?
Oh man, I have no idea except that I think it's a stunt. I mean, with all due respect to JD Vance, by all accounts, it is completely unprecedented. Republican members of Congress are tight-lipped. They're saying they don't know. They're apparently calling around town trying to find out. The generals are complaining. They're pulling people out of war zones and asking them to come back. It sounds like this has not happened in decades. And the fact that they're kind of laughing and they're like, it's going to be a big reveal, it says it's basically a political stunt.
But that to me, I love, though, Dan, the reasoning of what hadn't happened in decades. How many times could you say that in relation to the Trump administration and something they do? Hadn't happened in decades. Yeah, we know.
I mean, it's fair, but not with the military in war zones. I mean, I get your point, right? He norms and customs like mean nothing, and I say that respectfully. But like, to Mark's point, you could ask a general in, whatever, supporting Ukraine, who's monitoring drones, to just call in and go back to your drones. The fact that they are saying everyone get on a plane and come back, again, it could be there's a super legit reason. But the fact that Trump loves the big reveal, the producer in him, color me curious.
All right, no real developments on the potential government shutdown that I know of. Here's the president talking about the blame game. Number 8, please.
This is all caused by the Democrats. They asked us to do something that's totally unreasonable. They never change. They want to give money away to illegally, people that entered our country illegally. They want to give them massive federal money. And we don't want to do that because it means everyone's going to just keep pouring back. Right now we have absolutely perfect borders like you haven't seen in many years. Even better than I had great borders during my 4 years. But these borders are stone cold closed. You can only come into our country legally now. But the Democrats want to give it all away. They want to open up the borders. Take a look at that. Big thing. They want to open borders again. After what we're going through now, getting rid of prisoners, getting rid of all of these people dropped out from mental institutions, drug dealers, drug addicts, everything. They're putting everybody into our country. It's all ended now. But this is what Schumer wants. This is what the Democrats want. They want to have, and they want to take our money. We're doing well because of tariffs. We're doing unbelievable. We're making more money than we ever.
All right, we'll do a gimmick here. I'm going to ask you guys to close your eyes and vote with the show of hands. You'll raise your right hand if you think the Republicans have the stronger hand politically going into a potential shutdown, and you'll raise your left hand if you think the Democrats do. All right, let's see how you vote. Eyes closed, gentlemen, no peeking. Eyes closed. Hogan, raise your right hand if you think Republicans have the stronger hand. Left hand if you think Democrats do. Dan, got to vote, dude.
Oh, obviously, well, you said Hogan. So
No, both of you. All right, you both say the Republicans have a stronger hand. Quickly, Hogan, what gives the Republicans a stronger hand?
For the first time in my lifetime, we have a chance to win this from a PR standpoint.
Why though? Why though?
I'm about to tell you why. Tell you why. It's because even Schumer came out and said we need to shut down. We're going to have to shut down. They leaned in on this. Tip, they remember in the Oval Office when Schumer and Pelosi were there? I was standing right there, and Trump goes, "Fine, Chuck, you ready? You want to blame it on somebody? Blame the shutdown on me." And Schumer and them were like, "Of course we will, Mr. President. Don't even worry about it." Schumer came out and said he had to do this. He lost the last fight on the CR. The word for the Democrat Party, as you know right now, is fight. If he doesn't show fight here, he's in a whole lot of trouble politically at home.
Dan, why did you say Republicans have a stronger hand?
Because I think anytime you're saying, and I know most people, their eyes glaze over at this word, but just the idea of a clean extension, just extend as we are. I think it's easy to understand. It's simple. It sounds like there's no real change. I think where the Democrats made a huge mistake was if they had simply said, fine, we'll agree to that, but you have to reauthorize the Obamacare credit for 4.5 million people who, by the way, are mostly in red states. They would have had a chance to win this because even Republicans think they have to do it. When Jeffries and Schumer came out with $1 trillion in spending being put back into the budget and said, we're going to basically try to undo the big, beautiful bill, I think they totally lost the high ground. And Trump is just going to say, clean, extend it, and Democrats are going to, I think.
One other thing. This is one of the very important points. Just hear me out here. One sentence. The Democrats want to shut down the American government to force the American people to use American tax dollars to give American health care free to non-Americans. Big problem.
Well, but I think the bigger problem, though, is the ACA health credits were designed for red states that did not expand Medicaid for Obamacare. That's primarily Texas, Florida, I think it's Louisiana, Georgia. You pull all that healthcare out when premium notices go out on November 1st. They're already going to be the largest in this country in over 20 years, just without this. People are looking at 120% policy increases who cannot afford it. Those are in red states. John Ossoff, the Texas Senate race. I think, Hogan, we had a chance to split you guys, but we fumbled it away.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. Dan, you'll be not surprised to hear my flight's 40 minutes delayed. So that's good news, except I got to make sure I'm going to make my connection. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read a word from our sponsor. Sam, be louder when a minute's up. I barely heard you last time. So let me know when a minute's up, if you would. And I'm going to read a word from our sponsor. Then I'm going to start calling the first person. And then I'm going to call Delta customer service on mute while Dan runs the Q&A, and maybe I'll be back. But here we go. Minute on the clock, please, Sam. Another word from our sponsors. This is CB Distillery. Having trouble sleeping. Maybe you're a little bit sore after working out. Maybe spirit's not as good with mood what you'd want it to be. Maybe your focus is not right. We recommend the products from CB Distillery. Clean ingredients, no fillers, just premium CBD. Imagine waking up and feeling refreshed, rested, like Dan Turrentine will feel tomorrow morning after 4 hours on two-way.
Right.
2 million people, really more than 2 million people, and I don't know if this includes Hogan or not, but 2 million people trust the product from CB Distillery. Now's your chance to give them a try. Go to cbdistillery.com. Use the promo code two-way for 25% off. Promo code two-way for 25% off products across the website, your entire purchase. Report now that Comey may have just been indicted. So let's look for that. cbdistillery.com, promo code two-way, try the products, get a chance to give yourself a good night's sleep using their premium options across the board. No more dragging, no more being exhausted. cbdistillery.com, promo code 2-way. Sam, is that a minute? Gotta be. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm gonna call on somebody, and then Dan's gonna take over while I'm on with Delta. And of course, I know a lot of you are concerned about whether I'll make my connection, so I'll keep you minutely posted. Let's start with Mike Conley. Mike Conley, welcome in. Question. I know. I saw his.
Then it's happened. Let's be honest. Then it's happened.
That was the tweet. That was the tweet I saw. Mike Conley, welcome in. Thank you for being part of 2-way. Questions for Dan and for Hogan. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I'm reading Kamala Harris's new book, and I'm struck by how much she criticizes the Biden administration, Josh Shapiro. And yeah, I know you've talked about this at length, but like, it doesn't seem like it serves any purpose at all. Maybe to sell books, I'm not sure. It seems like it only hurts her more than it helps her. Have you ever seen any other candidates do anything like that post-election? And she uses phrases like the campaign I inherited several times, which seems, I don't know, it just felt weird reading that, just to throw her own staff under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, I Hogan, obviously, maybe you have seen it. I've never seen somebody who wants to preserve the option of running again, going after everybody. I've seen people who are like, that's it, I'm done. I'm gonna, settle some scores on my way into retirement. But I've never seen anyone do what she's doing. And the thing that's most kind of bizarre is her reputation is that she treats people terribly, that she blames everybody for problems, that there's no accountability, and that she's incredibly indecisive. And what does she do? She writes a book as part of her master plan to keep herself relevant, in which she plays to the stereotype. I've never seen somebody screw this up as badly as it appears that she has. But Hogan, you think that the bar is higher with somebody else?
No, I mean, again, right on the money. Mike, you said that that the book hurts her and she's out and it hurts her. Anytime she talks, it hurts her. I think it reminds us of all the problems she had the first time around. Dan is absolutely right. If you're going to make the claim, then make the claim be provocative. When she says she can't pick Pete Buttigieg because he's gay, and then goes on with probably the most prominent lesbian on the planet other than Ellen DeGeneres, and says, no, I didn't say that. I just said I knew the political ramifications. Probably I couldn't pick a gay guy. Wait, what? That's exactly what you wrote. And then she tries to backtrack it. It was the indecisiveness, the realization that all of a sudden the things she said behind the scenes are coming out. What I'm waiting for is for the Biden types to come out and go, all right, you fired the first shot. Let us come over the top here and really hit you hard, because they've got a lot of information too. I've never seen an administration try and prop up and help a vice president the way they did with Kamala Harris. And she was not up to the job. She did, I would argue she was a horrible vice president. But you get to see she's not a good politician either. When she's out in the open and given those opportunities, she fails. And let's not forget, this is the same woman who called Joe Biden a sex criminal and a segregationist on a debate stage, then went to work as his vice president. And now she's coming out and she's angry about it. It blows my mind, the whole thing.
Thanks, Mike, so much for coming on.
Thanks,
let's
Mike.
go to the. Okay, let's go to the next person here. Ken Schultz, come on in. Tell us where you are located and what's on your mind for Hogan and me.
Thank you for letting me on.
Of course.
I'm outside of Dayton. Been watching the show since a couple months before the election, or watching the shows. And what you guys are doing is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What's on your mind?
I have a question that it goes back a ways, 2 questions, because the first one, the answer is quite likely, I don't know. The first one's on ActBlue. It was in huge trouble. And then, although he might be leaving lights on for us, the representative from Tennessee that's not named Tom Burdett, but his name's similar to that, and I've Please forgive me for not remembering. He came on and he said nothing's going to happen of it because both sides are doing it, and then it dropped off the face of the earth. So what's going on, with ActBlue? The answer, quite possibly, you haven't heard anything either. And then while you answer that, I'll try to remember what the other question was. Oh, I remember.
Sure. Well, yeah, go ahead.
When Trump first got rid of the organization that decided who was going to be in the White House press corps, Mark was against it, and I understood his logic, made a lot of sense. They seem to be doing a pretty good job of it, of mixing it up. There must be some algorithm they're using to decide who gets on, and it seems to be a lot better than what it was. I don't blame them for not telling us what the algorithm is, because they're probably changing it. What do you think about, now that we've been able to see it for a while, what do you think about the way they choose who's in the White House press corps day by day?
Hogan, you want to take that last question here to kick off? I know there's a lot of your good friends there.
Yeah, we kicked around a lot of these methods actually in the first admin, and there were a lot of conversations behind the scenes about it. I can tell you, anytime something like that, an establishment, an order is disrupted in Washington, D.C., people freak out initially, and sometimes they're right to do so. But this one wasn't one of those times, and you kind of see it settle back down. I think there's still a lot of back and forth with the press secretary. There's still a lot of new media coming into the room, offering new perspectives, asking different questions. So I kind of like the cadence of where it is now. And quite frankly, since we get so much of our media away from the mainstream outlets, it makes sense to give those folks access. What will happen when a Democrat becomes president again? I don't know if they're going to kick those people out, most likely so, because now I think the precedent's been set, and bring in some more lefty journalists. I would argue there are already lefties full in the room, so a few conservatives won't hurt anybody. But still, I think the process is going pretty well now. Dan, what do you think?
I actually 100% agree. I said it at the time. I think this is awesome. I think the fact that the White House Correspondents Association thought that they were it was God's right for them to be there, and that they were the gatekeepers. They determined who joined the club. I think it's great that new media is in there. We read the day book, the press pool every single day on the morning meeting. I think it's awesome that they're having, the on network and like the Blade on the same, in the same press pool. Like, so far, they have had kind of everyone represented. I think your first question about ActBlue, I don't think there's anything there. I think the reason you're not hearing it is that when you make a political donation, whether on ActBlue or any other campaign website, you, the donor, have to attest that you're a U.S. citizen, that this is your own money. That's because campaigns simply do not have the infrastructure to vet every single donor. If Hogan were running for Congress, and of course, if he did, thousands of people would be flooding his inbox with donations. Hogan or his friends or his staff could not sit there and Google every single name and go through every single thing and get your bank account statements and everything. So the way it works is you, the donor, attest. And if it's found that you lied, you're in trouble, not the platform, not the campaign. And so unless I could be wrong, unless they find something that I'm not aware of, ActBlue is completely legit, and they keep operating, and I know they're hiring.
I think this is one of the biggest potential bombshells in political history. Having worked on some of this stuff behind the scenes already and learning more about it in the last several years, Ken, I think it could be I disagree with Dan. I think it's a massive criminal enterprise. A lot of those people who have done sworn affidavits, et cetera, said, I didn't give any money to them. And all of a sudden there's $30,000 under my name, under my credit card number, et cetera, et cetera. I think the way it's set up is completely sketchy for sure. I think more has to come out again. I don't want to over speculate. I've seen and heard a lot from behind the scenes. I just don't know how much of it they can prove in a court of law. It's not just what you know, it's what you can prove. So I think if they can get more information and get stuff out, I think it's going to be a really big problem. And it goes back to what Stephen Miller was saying off the top. with the Soros funded, again, we could argue about the different NGOs, the groups, but also the judges that he put into place that went after Trump, that let out criminals. Then you also have things like ActBlue. I think it becomes to paint a picture that's problematic for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Should the information and the data and the allegations become real.
Yeah.
Mark has breaking news. He's back.
Let me interrupt on Comey. Go ahead and put up the ABC News headline. Ken, thanks for joining. Grateful to you. Put up the headline.
Thanks, Ken.
This is from ABC News. That former FBI Director James Comey indicted days after Trump demanded his DOJ move, quote, now to prosecute enemies. Here's the president from earlier today. I suspect he knew this was coming. This is from the president in the Oval Office calling Comey a bad person. Roll that, please.
I can't tell you what's going to happen because I don't know. You have very professional people headed up by the Attorney General, and Todd Blanche, and Lindsay Halligan, who's very smart, good lawyer, very good lawyer. They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI. And but I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I asked ChatGPT if an FBI director had ever been indicted. The answer is no, although many of them have been investigated. Hoover, Bill Sessions was investigated. In any event, Hogan, what do you think will happen here with this indictment of James Comey?
Well, as we learned,
be?
As we learned in the Trump administration, or excuse me, in the election, you can indict a ham sandwich. That's the old saying. But you can't convict one. If they don't have the evidence here to pop him, then he's gonna walk free. I would argue he lied before Congress, and there were so many of those McCabe, Clappers, Brennan's, Comey's in that administration. I was sitting here trying to rack my brain as to all the things that we had fights with him about in the first term. Maybe you can bring some of that. I'm
sorry to interrupt. I want to read a tweet from the Attorney General of the United States, the aforementioned Pam Bondi. She says, "No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case." Hogan, pick back up, please.
Again, there was so much of this we fought in the first administration, and oftentimes these people go before Congress. They say all these things that they know aren't true, and they never get held accountable. This goes back to what I said at the beginning of the administration. It's not just the transparency. I think this administration has been extremely transparent. It's the accountability. Once you start peeling back the layers and you get to see who's to blame for a lot of this stuff, are you going to hold them accountable? It looks like the administration is moving to do so. I'm looking to see more from this John Bolton situation, and most assuredly, James Comey.
Dan, one of the seminal moments in the 10 years of Trump was the day Comey was fired by Trump. I happened to be in the White House that day, meeting with the president, and Stephen Colbert announced Comey's firing on his show because he taped it right around the time it happened. And the audience, the liberal audience, was very confused. They cheered, or they booed rather. And of course, Colbert's point of view was Comey's a villain. Last night on CNN, when this was being discussed, Van Jones said Comey is no hero of the left because he more than anyone really is responsible for Donald Trump winning. Yeah. So now Comey on paper should be a hero of the left because Donald Trump's Justice Department's indicted him. Will Democrats rally around Comey? Will Democrats be denouncing this, or is Comey still such a villain amongst Democrats as Van Jones claimed that they're not going to play in this one?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, my former boss, who I love and think would have been a fantastic president, Hillary Clinton, she's probably going to go to her grave, but absolutely no love lost, and convinced that had James Comey not announced what he did 10 days out, that she would have won the election. We can debate if that, ifs or buts here, but I don't know, because there are other cases where it sounds like there's a better, case, so to speak, of there aren't any facts. The prosecutors recommended not doing this. Apparently, Pam Bondi, recommended not doing it, and somehow it was overruled. Comey seems to be one where I'm, again, maybe it's like Capone on taxes. Did he lie to Congress about authorizing a leak? I've heard people say that technically he believes he's going to get off on this. I don't know. The party is so knee-jerk right now. I'm sure they'll come out and say Comey is, Jesus Christ, but I'd be careful. I mean, he screwed Hillary Clinton.
If Trump's for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's predict New York Times headline. What will the New York Times headline be? We'll see who comes closer. Hogan.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Take a guess. Take a guess. No. Dan, what will the New York Times
Comey indicted after Trump demands it.
Yeah, that's probably pretty close to right.
Yes.
Probably
yes.
pretty close
There you
to
go.
right. All right, let's go to Richard. Welcome in. Thank you for being part of two-way questions for our two leading authorities.
So he's muted.
Is for Dan, and it's about immigration policy.
Yep.
And the Democrats constantly talking about fight, fight, fight. Why don't any of them make a proposition about meaningful legislation in their eyes that would constitute, in my opinion, fighting? They are legislators. AOC, Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. Why don't they propose something other than supporting people attacking ICE agents, their crazy rhetoric about ICE? Why don't they just propose something and say, someday we'll have the White House and we'll have both houses of Congress and we can do something about it?
So, Richard, it's a great question. And I would imagine that at the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and the DSCC, which oversees Senate races, they are looking at what Donald Trump said in the Oval Office today and saying, that's going to be the advertising campaign against our candidates next November. If you elect a Democratic House or a Democratic Senate, of course, we don't have the power to actually reopen the border, but he's going to say they have no policy. And if you want to be president or we want to get the majority back, we are going to have to assure people that we are not going to reopen the border, that we are going to keep it sealed. I think if we can try to get the conversation on what do you do with the 15 million people here, we have a better chance of success. But to your point, if all we do is say ICE is terrible, we're going to defund ICE, which I can't believe there are members of our party in the House who are offering bills on that, we are going to have a huge problem, because this goes to the crime issue. This goes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, this sense that Democrats are kind of lawless and won't keep you safe, and that you may not like Trump, you may not like his economy, you may not love the tariffs, but I will keep you safe, I think is a really dangerous place for us. And we have to try to mollify that and assure people that we're responsible adults on this stuff.
Also, just real quickly, Dan, you're right. But remember, this is what's so infuriating for us too. The Democrats are going after ICE, vilifying ICE, doxing ICE when they're fighting drug cartels, for heaven's sakes. But what ICE is doing is executing the laws that are on the books that Congress passed. So if they want to change it, they need to come up with some laws they want to change. The problem with that is laws that close the border. The opposite of that is laws that open the border. So if they were to propose that, they know it's not popular either. So I think they're kind of stuck in there to go, all right, because as Dan, we just point out with several issues, they won't nuance it and go, we don't like crime, or we think crime's bad, but Trump's doing, and we don't like what he's doing more. We got to figure this out. Theoretically, you would think they would say, all right, the border's closed, that's good. What are we going to do with the 15 million? They deserve to be here and shift the narrative. Instead, I think they're going to continue to just say, all right, Trump's a Hitler, Trump's a Nazi, and his Gestapo's the ICE people. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get in control, and then we're going to peel back some of that. We're going to defund ICE. We're going to open the border back up. They are so pregnant on loving an open border. If they were to shift and do what Dan said, I don't know that all the Democrats, as he said, I think it's a litmus test here, I don't know that they'd get all that much support. I think they want it open.
Richard, thank you. Grateful to you for coming
But you better believe Roy Cooper in North Carolina and Sherrod Brown in Ohio are not going to sign up for defunding ICE.
Yeah. Vice President's on the Ingram angle in just a bit, although I think probably pre-taped, right?
He taped it. Yeah, Laura's been putting it up all day on social
Yeah.
media. Yeah.
All right, so won't have Comey latest news on Comey. Hogan Gidley, thank you for making time and joining us. Very grateful to you.
She may have a big guest tomorrow night too.
Hogan Gidley,
No, not that big. No, I'm kidding. Wait,
Speaker of the House.
bigger than Hogan.
Speaker of the House.
I'm sorry.
Speaker of the House.
I don't know.
Okay,
We'll see.
all right. Thanks for the tip, Hogan.
I
Hogan,
bet
thanks
somebody's on Fox
thanks for
tonight
being on.
from the
Thanks for
administration
being
on
on.
this. Yep.
Yeah. Now, America, if you've not had your fill of Dan Turrentine with 3 hours, here's your opportunity. And if you've never, by weird fluke and bad judgment, watched Michael Moynihan's show, tonight's the night. Dan and Michael will be on for an hour starting in just a few minutes. I recommend that to you.
Right over here.
Tune in and turn on. Dan will be with Michael for the hour, and you'll learn a lot. The Moynihan Report co-host two-way tonight. It's funny, Dan. They have your title up there as co-host of two-way nights. Dan, is there something you need to?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Mark, you haven't told me something here. Okay.
Co-host of two-way tonight. That's exciting.
Sure.
Who made that graphic? I want him to be promoted. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time is the morning meeting. Now, for those minutely interested in my life, my flight's delayed. I may not make it. I may have to be on a plane during the morning meeting. So Dan, co-host of the morning meeting, you and Sean will fly solo there. Right now, you can listen to the new episode of Next Up on the Megyn Kelly Network. My guest, Patty Selise Doyle and Larry O'Connor, two great Americans. We talk about all manners of things. And my reported monologue is on the Democratic candidates, potential candidates for 2028. Do they want to run as uniters or they want to run as dividers? And you'll hear my breakdown there. Talked to a lot of Democrats this week and mixed opinions about which lane to be in. But everybody right now is crowding, for the most part, into one lane, the divider lane, because putting a premium on opposing Donald Trump. Grateful to Dan and Hogan and all of you be part of the two-way community. Some of us will see you at 9 a.m. Eastern time. I hope it's me too. And again, turn over right now. Watch Dan on the Moynihan Report with Michael Moynihan. Dan, thank you. Good luck with the last hour. And I'm going to go talk to Delta customer service, if you'll excuse me. Have a good night, everybody.